Welcome back, everybody. New episode of Goodwill Podcasting. Today we are here to talk about a movie that's somewhat taking the world by storm. That was made for not a lot of money and is having a whole lot of success, and that is Obsession.
Oh,
Connor is not with us today, but I do have a guest with me, and my guest today is JDX, aka Film Bro Sway.
first
And this
way.
is a first time guest, so it's good to have you, man.
No, it's good to be here, man. I love the content, fan of the stuff, fan of what you do, man. So it's especially for this movie, I'm excited to be here for this.
Absolutely. Do you want to let people know? I think a lot of our audience is probably familiar with you, but let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on socials at Film Bro Sway. That's Film Bro SWAY, Film Bro Sway. Find a whole bunch of movie news, movie content, occasionally the music stuff, and yeah, just a whole bunch of me yapping on there.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about something we'll get into, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu, because we've both seen it. Um,
Yeah.
but one thing I admired with your review, and we were talking about it, is your passion, which I enjoy. I think it's something that we need more of, and I think your passion is there, whether it's positive or negative, and I think that's a good thing in the space. But you took your passion to South by this year, and I wanted to hear a little bit about what that experience was like for you. I was there last year, was not able to go this year,
Yeah.
but how was that for you? And was that your first time?
Yeah, that was my first film festival ever,
Cool.
and didn't really know what to expect. In my mind, because I always overpack for trips, so wherever,
Mhm.
even if I'm going camping, I'm packing for 2 extra days, and so in my head, I brought gym clothes, I brought recording equipment to make music.
No time for that.
I even ordered pre-workout, dude, at like a local GNC. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have so much time to do everything.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. South by Southwest humbled me so fast. The nearest equivalent I could think of is like EDC, because when I went to EDC, it's a EDM
Mhm.
festival, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and you just go back, sleep, and you repeat. And that's what South by Southwest was. I would wake up in the morning and I'd have to get dressed, get ready, and then you have to go because there's lines for reservations, even if you have a reservation. So you have to get there
Yep.
hour before the screening itself. And after you do watch your movie, you have to run over to another screening that is not next door. It's like 15, 10 minutes away. So you hop in an Uber, you go around. But we were movie maxing and it was a ton of fun. I met a lot of cool people out there. I got to run into Sydney Valorp. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work, but
Mhm.
she's someone that I definitely look up to, and I was able to just meet a lot of really cool people and just make a lot of good memories. I have a story I actually haven't said on any of my platforms, but I was walking down the street after I Love Boosters. I was fucking amped, man. I love that movie. I was crying at the end, dude, because I just couldn't believe it, dude. It's the first movie of the festival, and we're starting off like this. We're walking down the street at South by. I have my little I Love Boosters sign, and this lady's like, "Oh, can I take a photo of the poster?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, take a photo." And I was just like, "So, what do you think? How do you feel about the movie?" And we just start chopping it up about the movie. I start telling her about Boots Riley, and towards the end of the conversation, she was like, "Oh, like let me get your number. I'm working on a project for this and for this movie, something related to that." And I was like, "Oh, sick." She's like, "Yeah, I'm Boots Riley's sister." I was like, "Oh, what the hell, man?"
That's crazy.
I was like, "Holy shit!" And the project never fleshed out, but it doesn't even matter. Like I had a, it was such a surreal moment just to be at the film festival, have that happen. I had a couple of cool moments. I ended up talking to the Good Boy director, the one with the horror
Okay.
movie with the
Yeah.
dog. He complimented my Nightmare on Elm Street shirt, and we just started talking about the franchise. And um, another night was cool where we ended up bringing out Megan Lawless, and she came out with our group to do some karaoke, which was a ton of fun. And just a surreal experience, man. So many movies, some cool documentaries. I love Boosters, and of course, Obsession. Like that
Yeah.
was, yeah.
How was the Obsession screening there, what was the energy like? What was the vibe like? How are people? I'm assuming the praise there was universal as well.
Oh man, it it was so good that I had to like question myself because first of all, it's been a long
Yeah.
time since I had felt like a horror movie did something to the effect of
Hmm.
Hereditary. And as I walked out, I was like, "Is this festival hype? Am I psyching myself out? Was this like, am I thinking about this and experiencing this way more because I'm at a festival?" But I swear to God, I'm walking around Austin, Texas, with that anxiety from that movie in my chest for a solid 20, 30 minutes after
Hmm.
the screening, still feeling it. And the room was laughing, shot like screaming, like it was, we were moving in unison in that room, and it was a total fucking blast. It's unbelievable to describe like the exact feelings that I was going through when I was in that room. But when I walked out, I felt like refreshed, dude. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. Like that high that I had been looking for since Hereditary had finally come. And I think that the praise that it's getting, the universal success that it's getting, is well deserved. It's deserving of all of its praise. I am really really a fan of this movie. I think that Curry Barker, in my opinion, has washed all of the YouTube to horror directors. I think this is just a phenomenal achievement of a movie, and and of course the talk of the town is Indy Navarrete because holy fuck, man, what a
Yeah.
performance!
Yeah. I think it's interesting you're referencing that sort of feeling at a festival where you're not sure if you're caught up in the energy of other people, and I think that's something that can happen to all of us, and even happens, I think, on the internet in our space.
Yeah,
You can kind of get a little bit carried away at times with different movies, and I think we've all done it. Um, but I think this is a movie where I've seen a lot of comparisons to a few different things. I've seen a lot of people talking as if this is a continuation of sort of the energy that Zach Kreger has brought with his
sure.
stuff, in terms of like Barbarian and Weapons. I think this movie smokes both of those movies, to be totally
That's
honest.
exactly what I said. That is
And
exactly what I said.
yeah,
And no disrespect to Zach Krager,
no, 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 no,
I
not at all.
really do like I really enjoy Barbarian. I had fun with Weapons. But I like this movie is in a different league.
Yeah.
Respectfully, I think that the because oftentimes when I'm watching a horror movie that implements comedy, and I'm going to reference The Wailing, which I think you have seen, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Mhm. Yeah.
The Wailing's comedy, in much respects to how I feel about Zach Kreger's comedy, and sometimes the comedy that is integrated with a lot of movies, sometimes feels like it is implemented for these punchlines. It doesn't feel too organic, and sometimes it doesn't really matter. Like in the Wailing, sometimes it took me out, but the comedy is really good that I was just like I couldn't help but laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
Whereas Curry Barker's editing, I can't stress this enough. The editing in this fucking movie is so
Which
good.
he edited, to be right.
I believe so. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. He did
Yeah.
edit. Yeah, and is so unbelievably precise that
Hmm.
and along with the dialogue, right? The dialogue is in here, I think, is also not being talked about a lot because the dialogue makes these moments feel so real and makes this friend group feel real. Like everything that's going on in their intergroup, everyone talks about this friend group being like so toxic. Me and Mike just did a podcast about this too, and we talked about their friend group, and we're like, this is like normal stuff. It's like obviously to some degree, right? But like,
Yeah.
somebody sleeping with somebody else and not telling the whole friend group. Somebody has a secret crush. Like this is
Yeah.
not
It's human
that.
human stuff. Yeah,
It's
for
human
sure.
stuff. Yeah, there's flaws for sure. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I sorry. Go ahead.
No, I agree with what you're saying about the dialogue. I rewatched it last night, and I think, one of the beautiful things about this is, um this was made for between 750,000 and $1 million. It's made, I guess, over $30 million so far. And what I said to my buddy last night was, get some good actors together, write a good script, um, edit the movie well, have some good music, and like the story sells itself. I mean, there's not that much in terms of like even heavy practical effects. Like there's a few moments obviously, but this is a movie that's on the back of these actors and the writing.
Hmm.
And this the cinematography and the filmmaking itself obviously, but
Yeah,
it's just good to see stories like that succeeding. Um, to
100%.
back up for just a moment, we were talking about South by Southwest, we're talking about I Love Boosters, which is
Yes.
out this weekend.
Yes.
Um, I got to see that at the Film Center in Philadelphia. Got to hear Boots speak, which was great. Highly recommend everyone goes and sees that. But
Thank
also
you.
coming out this weekend is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which
That's
we
not
have.
coming out this weekend, man. That's a psyop, bro.
Yeah,
There's no Star Wars movie, bro. Oh my
and
God.
it's funny because I really think talking about these three movies kind of together, it's sort of like three very different ends of the spectrum in terms of
Right.
like Obsession being this bare bones skeletal film that's able to succeed. Boosters being, I think, about $20 million and being very creative and kind of like you're seeing this really creative filmmaker getting to play with more money and the creativity is really present in every single frame. The
Yeah.
costume design's beautiful. Some really cool practical stuff that they're doing that'll kind of blow you away. Um, it's a movie that I think could fail. It could succeed. I think it's kind of it's a question mark. But one I'm definitely hoping does well. And then you have Star Wars just spending $170 million, and you look at it and it's like it looks horrible. Like the CGI is laughably bad. Um, there's the practical effect done with aliens here. I'm gonna forget what they're called, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
look
yeah.
awful.
I'm
They're like
calling them.
stop
I'm calling
motion. It
them
looks horrible.
the little Munchkins. I don't know their name, but I named them the Munchkins. I'm sure I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but sorry, Star Wars fan. Actually, I don't. No apologies to the Star Wars fans, man. They've been hating on me all week, so it's fine. I'm gonna call them the Munchkins.
Yeah. And they were in is Babu Frick in The Rise of Skywalker, and then they were in Mando season three as well. But yeah, it's
Uh,
just like it's like stop motion that doesn't look like it fits in the film. And it's like
right.
very odd. And some of the
Yeah.
CGI like characters just look unfinished. It's just like the opposite end of the spectrum. So I wanted to
Right.
get just some of your quick thoughts on that movie and um some of the stuff we were talking about earlier.
Sure. Yeah. No. I want to say. I think what I want to say is this: that in the face of AI, right? In the face of late stage capitalism, in the face of where we're at globally with politics, our art should be so expressive, so 110% the creatives. By what I mean by this is like when you're watching I Love Boosters, reason why I cried at the end, reason why I rated it like 4.5 stars, I was just so blown away, is that 3 years ago when I saw AI start to roll out and I start to see like, oh, okay, they're gonna do photos, they're gonna do music, and I was thinking to myself, okay, well, art has humanity. That's why we're drawn to it, and I'm drawn to a lot of art that sometimes is a little messy because, like, to me, that feels real. There's a song by Young Thug. It's called Riri, where he's singing, and it's objectively, it's not good, but I can't help but smile. I can't help but laugh and hear what he was going through, and it feels real to me. It feels tangible. And when I'm watching I Love Boosters, at the second act, in between the second and third act, it gets a little messy. But every frame, every scene in this movie is Boots Riley saying, "Oh, you guys like Sorry to Bother You? Let me double and triple down on everything that I am." And I felt like I was watching a Boots Riley movie. It felt so stylistically Boots Riley, and I thought to myself, this is the response to AI. Everything has to be weirder. Everything has to be you
Hmm.
110%. It cannot be just 100. It's got to be 110% stuff that maybe even doesn't fully land because it is inspiring. And I'm going to reference a quote from Babylon that completely changed my life, really, and the way that I approached art. Um, regrettably said by Brad Pitt, but he's on that balcony, right? And he says, he's like, "We need to push art to the fucking limits." And I'm butchering this quote. He's like, we need to push art to the limits, and push it so far that even if it comes crashing and burning down, the next generation will build upon the ashes." And I have never stopped thinking about that line, and just what it means to create art that means something, even if it's not fucking put together the best way. So I'm not sure if I can cuss on this. We're good
You can curse, yeah.
there. uh, I believe in that stuff, and that's why watching I Love Boosters, seeing what Boots Riley created, and the beautiful movie and how it kind of comes together is just it moved me. It moved me. It gave me hope. And in the same vein, watching Obsession and how you say, like, this short little budget, 700, $1 million, what give you, and they were able to create something. And even in Obsession, I have some problems with the movie, but all that kind of falls to the wayside when I know that these are people that got together and crafted something so special that's like moving and stirring it's creating a dent in pop culture, and it's causing a shift again and making people excited. And that's why I told all the people in my comment section, which I probably shouldn't have been in there too much, but I was telling people, I was like, is just fine good enough for you? Do you stomach just fine as you walk
Yeah.
out of a Star Wars movie? Like, I was playing Casino Royale for my students 2 days ago, and I'm watching this opening sequence. I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking incredible. I'm like, I'm feeling it. We're watching this shit on Tubi, okay? There's ads, and I'm still feeling something in between these cuts. And I paused the movie, and I tell all my students, because I was like, wait, I can say something right now. I tell all my students, I was like, whenever you watch a movie and you go out and you see something like this, remember that you could feel things like this. Remember that you could actually experience this. And I told them, there's a Star Wars movie coming out this week, and you better not go watch it. Like, I told them, I was like, you know what, I can fucking say this, but I can't say this.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they were like, oh, I didn't even know this. I was like, don't even bother. Remember that there's movies that make you feel something. I was like, is there not albums that made you feel something? Albums that made you cry? Movies that made you cry? Movies that made you laugh? Like, and that's what we should look for. And again, people tell me about oh, you're just here for the adventure, like you don't think about it too much. Even in that respect, in the adventure sense, this movie still fails, which is why I hate this movie so much. Mandalorian and Grogu. But
Yeah.
to finish off what I'm saying here, Obsession, I Love Boosters, both out this weekend. Hell, there's a movie called Passengers out this weekend. Fucking go watch that. Like, I don't. Is it good? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But it's made. It's made for real. It's made by real people. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you know, actually, I was able to get a couple plus ones to my screening, and I brought my mom with me and my fiance. But my mom, like, big Mandalorian fan. Like, she
Okay,
loves
good, good,
Grogu.
good. I want to hear this.
Um,
Good.
she's like she's a speech therapist, so she works with kids.
Wow.
Um, so I think she partially tries to watch, a lot of stuff so she can talk to them about it. I think she likes to talk to me about stuff, but she loves the show, loves Grogu. Like, I think enjoys it as a like lighter, fun story just to kind of, vibe to. She hated the movie. Like, she hated it. And, like, I honestly was expecting to like not argue with her. Like, if she liked it, I'd be like, that's good, mom. I'm glad you liked it. But, like, I expected to at least go back and forth, but, like, she was just like, yeah, that was bad. Like, and what
Wow.
what what I said is it's just lifeless. And that word gets used a lot, but there's literally no life. Like, you have Sigourney Weaver there giving such little effort that it's almost it's like embarrassing to watch. And that's like an all-time iconic actor who's been part of some of the best science fiction ever
I love
made.
Sigourney Weaver. I saw her name pop up in the title, and I cheered.
Uh, yeah.
Mind you, to everybody listening, I was excited. I was excited to watch Slop. Mind you, okay? I was ready to be like, you know what? I'm kicking my
Yeah.
feet. I'm a little baby. I'm gonna clap. It's okay. I wanted to have fun, man. That's like I
Yeah.
can't stress that enough. And
Yeah,
then
she just didn't want to. No, she just didn't want to be there. And like the performance from Pedro Pascal, I'm just like, there's not a single line in this movie that made me feel anything because they're all just monotone. And even in the action sequences, it's like just literally slowly walking through villains that aren't even like seemingly sentient, just shooting them in the face and just walking, like literally walking around. Like there's a sequence, a big action set piece at the end with some aerial combat, and it's like they're all just kind of like casually talking. There's no danger. It's just like
yeah.
y'all didn't even seem like you wanted to make this movie. You're just going through the motions of what you think this particular sequence is supposed to look like. Um,
And I want
and
to
that's
say,
hard to watch because I love Star Wars. Like, go ahead.
Jeremy Allen White. I think, and I
It was
know this is
odd.
extreme. I think, look, I genuinely think that Jeremy Allen White should actually be ashamed of himself. And I know that's hard to say. I know that's crazy. But I'm thinking to myself, and I made this in my video. I said, if you got this shit for the bag, could you not have tried for the bag? I say that. I say like there is no semblance of a character or charisma or enthusiasm. Like I'm thinking to myself, if I got paid for the bad to come in and do this, I don't want to. I literally don't want to do this. I'm going in and I'm giving the stupidest, silliest, wackiest performance because at least that would be something.
Yeah.
That he sounds like he's off Xanax, trying to be like, hey man, let me just fucking do this shit real quick, bro. Like I don't want to be
Yeah.
here, bro. Like please get me out of the studio, and you know and it doesn't help that every line is like, Mando, I am here to be with you, and I am here to like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like,
It's. uh, I think conceptually they make a decision in the movie to largely have the Hutts speaking English, Galactic Basic. Like the Hutt's entire thing is they think they're better than everyone. Like they think their language is better than the language of other. Like the twins speaking any English is like canon breaking stupidity. But I swear to God, they just don't want. They don't think people will read subtitles. I
well,
swear to God.
this movie just tells you that they don't think people will think. Period. Like
Yeah.
they have no trust in their audience, and I saw someone saying being that this is a perfect entry for those people who don't want to think about lore. And I think to myself, how sad is that, man? Like one of the one of the best things I love about sci-fi is the way that it treats me like an adult. It treats me with respect. When I'm watching Star Wars A New Hope, and when I watched it for the first time, I had zero knowledge on the lore. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm trying to figure it out, and this is so cool. Like, wait, hold on, let me. And then what's so fun about that is you get to go back and you get to
Mhm.
piece together. Oh, that's that name. Oh, that's this thing. Oh, that's that land. Oh, that's this lightsaber. Oh, what is this person called? And because they're like, hey, this is the world. Keep up. Like, come on, get to jogging. Get to jogging. And the same thing that Dune Part One does. I fucking love Dune Part One. I think Dune Part One is better than Dune Part Two, which I know is a crazy take for a lot of people online, but I really enjoy Dune Part One. And again, another sci-fi movie that is not holding my hand and explaining to me everything that I should be feeling and seeing and do. It just is. You got it. Walk with me. Walk with me and look at these cool fucking witches doing spells and doing using the bravado. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Leah Sedux, use the voice. Like,
Yeah.
I just, it's so much fun. It's so much fun, man. And that's why I fucking love sci-fi. And whenever I have a soft spot for Star Wars, and seeing this shit, genuinely heartbreaking and depressing. And depressing. It just sucks.
Yeah. And it's just the other thing is I maybe as just a final thought. I don't think it would have been that hard to make this story entertaining. I mean the Hutts are a really interesting species and like I mean I grew up reading books about like the Hutts and like their own adventures and all the crime syndicates and the way the families are fighting. Like it's sort of like it's like a mafia story, right? Like
Right.
it's and you can find those stories in Star Wars. Like you can find little genre stories all over the place, and you know, it's just really disappointing to see what that movie was, and especially because like the first 45 minutes or so, I was somewhat entertained.
Yeah,
A lot of that I think was the score from Ludwig, very good. We both talked about that.
man.
Um,
Let me talk about that real quick because that was also an imagination zone for me, bro. Because again, I think this movie fueled a beautiful hatred out of me. Like I honestly haven't sat down, but I think I could sit down and just write like 5 pages on my
mhm,
hatred and the imagination it inspired out of me. But as I felt my soul leaving my body, I swear to God, I started to hear like a little tingle, and I was like, wait, what is that? And it's like this beautiful synth, man. This beautiful synth, and I'm noticing the tempo, and I was like, stop it, hold on.
yeah,
And I sit up, and then Ludwig just decided, you know what, fuck it, let's bring 808s to the Star Wars universe, and I damn near shed a tear, and like Mandalorian's like flying into like this cyberpunk world, and it's
yeah,
just fucking incredible. I'm like, oh my god, if only this was a good movie. Like,
yeah,
dude, if only this was a competent movie. If only this was a competent movie, this would have been a. I think it would have been beloved, beloved.
yeah.
And you talk about how you could have kept the same story and juiced it up on some parts, and I fully agree. If we were able to see the action more, I probably would have excused the VFX. If maybe we held on these moments a little bit longer, I would have excused some of these dialogue lines where they're reading everything. But none of these moments felt like they had any gravity to them. Like
Mhm.
I never felt like someone was going to die. And I love Grogu. Look, where's he at? Where's he? Where's this little thing? I got him right here. I love Grogu. I think he's a cute little plush toy that I know is made to make money. I'm very well aware. But
Yeah.
that little cute guy, I actually like him. You could have manipulated my feelings with this movie, and I would have let you
Hmm.
dangle him over the edge. I would have jumped up screaming. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and there's one scene where they had an opportunity to do something emotional and interesting, and there's a resolution, and at that moment I was just like, this shit's fucking stupid. Like I don't care. I'm not feeling anything from this. Like it's just they were afraid to do anything that might be risky, and that's what I think it boils down to.
yeah, man.
Um, but are you down to get into Obsession?
Yeah, real quick, I'm almost 100% sure they held a gun to Ludwig's head. They were like, "You want to make a score ever again, man? You better make the greatest fucking score that you can possibly make." And because I've listened to that score back again, admittedly, and I'm just listening to these tracks going, "Oh my god, dude!" Like,
But
also,
you know that only makes me respect him more because like
sure, oh, 100%.
that's what we're talking about, right? Like you're in this he's in this situation, you know, you have the option to phone it in or you have the option to do good work and like you should have an obligation you should feel an obligation when you're being paid, you know, decent money to do good work. Like
Yeah,
that's simple.
yeah. Shout out Ludwig. Shout out the people who making the puppeteers, even if it didn't end up
Yeah.
looking the best
Yeah,
at the
I agree.
part. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
Yeah. Um
casting
all
crew
right. Yeah.
or
But
crew. Sorry, crew.
to get into Obsession, I'll read a little synopsis. I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've seen it, but our IMDb synopsis is after breaking the mysterious One Wish Willow to win his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic, allegedly, finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers that some desires come at a dark, sinister price. Um, I want to start by asking, have you seen Milk and Cereal, which is Curry's debut? I
I
have not
haven't
seen it
seen milk.
either, but
I haven't seen Milk and Cereal. I've seen the chair, and I'm not
okay.
too sure if you know the story behind the chair.
The Chair is the short that he put on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Can
Well,
you fill us in?
the chair is just a repeated cycle of this man who picks up a chair. It's like haunted. Very simple premise, also. But I wanted to bring up The Chair in correlation to Obsession because The Chair was actually the film that they reached out to Curry to
Right.
make the movie. For those listening, they had reached out to Curry. They were like, "Hey, we love The Chair. Here's X amount of money. Like, I'm ready to shoot a feature length film. Let's do this." And I believe that Curry did a very risky move because investors and people who offer you money oftentimes don't like to hear another option. And
Mhm.
Curry said, "Fuck that. I have a movie called Obsession, and can we do that instead?" And the studios heard the pitch, and they were like, they could have just been like, you know what, we're gonna pass and given no money because that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, let's do it.
Yeah, and I think the obsession, some of the inspiration for Obsession itself was a Simpsons episode that he saw about Homer interacting with the monkey's paw and kind of got the wheels turning. Um, and these sort of monkey paw stories have been around for a long time. It's very Stephen King. Um, I guess last year we got The Monkey, which I thought was fucking terrible. I hated that movie
You know,
with a burning passion.
I have a soft spot for the monkey only because it is one of those movies where I'm just laughing at it. So I did get some entertainment value at it.
Yeah.
I was on a first date and I had like a little radio. We were having a good time. Like, but yeah, no, it's not good.
Yeah. And I think with stories like this, there's oftentimes a blend of comedy with the actual horror. Um, what was strange about The Monkey for me is I had read um, the short story it was based off of, and it's very heavy. It's very dark. It is not funny. It's really
Mm,
upsetting. So I think that kind of skewed my expectations. But I think with this being an original story, um, I think one of the most impressive things about Obsession and what it made me think of from last year, I put this in my review, was I thought of Sorry Baby, where that's a
mm,
movie where just in terms of a young, I mean, that was a debut from Ava Victor. Just having a young filmmaker and a young writer being able to balance really heavy stuff. And obviously both movies involve sexual assault.
yeah,
Um, but both movies are balancing a lot of comedy. Um,
yeah,
and I don't think Obsession is quite as good as Sorry Baby, but like it's a really impressive job in terms of being able to write this screenplay and not have stuff feel in bad taste, not have stuff feel jarring in terms of tonal switches. And um, I love good writing. Like that's what
yeah.
me personally, I tend to watch movies for the writing, for the story. I like dialogue. I tend to gravitate towards that over more like visual spectacle. Um, which is just literally my personal preference. But
Yeah, yeah.
if you can write me a good story, I'm pretty much hooked, and this really worked for me. I wanted to see what were your sort of expectations going in, like how much exposure had you had to the ideas that were being worked with, or the film itself, or did you go in pretty much blind?
I didn't really have much of an idea of what the movie was about. I had seen the trailer once, maybe,
Mhm.
and even knowing the premise, I wasn't skeptical. I've heard good things, but I was like, it's. I was worried that it was going to be like every other horror movie that has been hyped up in the last 2 3 years. You know, oh, it's the scariest movie of all time, Silence of the Lambs. You know, like oh god. Um, Especially after
Yeah.
Undertone. Holy shit! Don't let. Let's move on. Let's move on immediately.
What a bad movie. Like what a
Yeah,
terrible people were laughing. Like my theater was laughing at that movie.
yeah. No,
It was not
just
good. Yeah.
very very disappointing. But yeah, no, I I had seen Curry Barker's TikToks, his comedy skits. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I was like, I would constantly watch them on my feed. I have memories with those skits. I thought they were hilarious. Um, so knowing he made a horror film, I was like, okay, okay. And I was connecting the dots in my head. I was like, the Rakata brothers, they're okay in my opinion. God, I know they're gonna kill me for that shit online. Um, they're fine. Also, who's a YouTube to who's the other person that did YouTube horror?
It was the
There's,
guy that did Iron Lung. His name
oh yeah,
is
Markiplier. But there's
yeah,
there's there's
Markiplier.
another one. It's the Racketstar Brothers. It's well, I guess
So
Chris Duggan too, but there's another
so
one.
now we have Kane Parsons with Backrooms, which is
Yeah,
not out yet.
yeah.
I feel like there's one
This,
more.
there is one more that I'm blanking on, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, for the sake of it, I've always just been kind of left lukewarm with a lot of these movies that I was just kind of like, okay, another one throws their hat in the ring. Let's see what it's going to be about. And I was left so genuinely impressed, and I think that I mentioned earlier, but I thought about the first time that I watched Hereditary, and I had such a physical reaction to that first scene in Hereditary. Which spoilers if you haven't seen Hereditary, skip like 10 seconds ahead. The head cutting off scene.
Yeah.
Um, I had never experienced anything like that in a theater where my entire body like froze, and like I shit you not, I wanted to like move and I couldn't, and my throat started closing up, and like I sank in my seat. And after like the whole, because it happens and the moment kind of stretches, that eeriness stretches for like a solid 5 minutes, or at least three. Just it felt eternal. But when it all finally kind of calms down, I was able to breathe, and I was like, I want to do that shit all over again. It felt like a roller coaster, and I
Yeah.
watched that movie 3 times in that opening weekend. And it was the first time that I had actually seen a fucking ghost in my house. I came home from college, and it's like 10 p.m. at night, and I'm like, all the lights are off. I'm walking in my room, and I turn the hall, and I see the fucking mom at the end of the hall, like in the shadow. And I was like, nope. When I go to my room, I turn on the light. That shit never happens to me, man. And my fault. I went to go watch that movie 3 times in the on
Hmm.
opening weekend. But yeah, as I sat watching this movie, I'm looking at the lighting, man. I'm looking at because for me, you say about the writing. The writing matters to me, but I am way more visual language kind of person, and the way that uh, Curry Barker is able to elicit these emotions and these feelings out of me in these darkly lit frames where can't make out their faces, which is what makes Hereditary so scary. And the only other time I saw that was in The First Omen with Arkasha Stevenson. For those who haven't seen it and are listening to the pod, please watch The First Omen. Incredible movie, incredible. Um, there's that scene where Bear wakes up uh, from his sleep. It's like 3 a.m. and she's in that corner and she
Hmm.
starts crying. And I don't know if they fucked with her face or they did makeup or something, if it was VFX, but she starts crying and I can't make out her face that much. And so my mind starts forming, working its imagination to picture what is actually going on. I remember seeing her face in that corner and crying, and my mind always, when I can't see something, it starts filling in the blanks, and my imagination always opts for the scarier option because
Hmm.
I want to have fun when I'm watching a horror movie. So like I decided to freak myself out. But but to what you were saying about the writing here is incredible. I love when characters that are around my age talk like they're in my age group and they don't talk weird or they don't talk like millennials wrote them. That's a big problem that I see a lot of times with some horror movies or even movies in general. The dialogue always is just kind of weird, but the dialogue here is incredible, akin to, and this is going to be crazy, but there's correlation here too. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I saw last year. I remember watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was hearing their dialogue and the way that they joked around and like the way that they acted. I was like, dude, I've been on a road trip like this. Like I've had buddies like this. Like this is really good. And I was like, and this is like the 1970s, I believe.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is incredible. It's a timeless film.
Yeah, and I think that stuff you're talking about with language is really important because I think to feel fear, you have to be able to empathize, or you have to be able to maybe see at least something you can recognize in these characters to make them believable.
Right.
Um, and I think once you can establish that understanding, or you can allow people to like sink in. I also think with every movie, like you want to be fully immersed. You want to be able to just sit in there, and when if you're seeing, like you just said, if you're hearing dialogue that's jarring to you, or you're like, that's not how that person would talk, or whatever, like it's taking you out of the experience. It's reminding you you're watching a movie. And I think especially
Yeah.
with horror, you cannot be reminded that you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that immersion is really key, and all the aspects of like all the technical aspects of filmmaking to me are just aspects of ensuring that actual immersion is taking place. Um, but I like what you were talking about with the light. I think there's a few scenes. I think when Nikki first comes back to his house in the dress and she's on his step and she's talking to him and acting like she was on Molly.
Yeah.
There's only able to really see light in like the center of her eyes, and like the light is playing really nicely. And that's it's really effective. And also the scene you talked about where it seems like the cry is just like a mimic, like it's something trying to mimic crying to trick him into thinking that it's upset. Um, and there's other scenes as well, like for example, the conversation that Nikki actually has with Bear when she's lying in bed. You're not able to see her mouth moving, um, even though she's talking, and it's really unsettling. Um,
Yeah.
and it's another scene that kind of stuck out to me in the same vein.
I was thinking about I look back at that scene where she's crying. I wonder how much of it is like Nikki and the entity trying to like fight within who gets the right to control her body. Um, and I
Yeah.
don't know if I like there was so much. There's many times, especially in my first watch, as I watch Indy's face because I want to stress about how a lot of her performance is in the subtle changes in her eyes and her mouth, at the edges of her mouth.
Hmm.
They'll ever so slightly move, and that's what would send chills down my back because I was constantly looking. I was looking for Nikki. I was looking for her throughout the whole movie after the wish because I was like, where is she? And you could see her start to come out when she had like almost she's waking up from a dream. That's what I would notice every time she would like kind of focus, and then the entity would like grab and bring her back.
Yeah.
And it's just it's terrifying. It is terrifying. And you know, we there's been so much discussion about Nikki's autonomy and what it means to have like literally no say over your body and no control. Like just it's you are a property of Bear at this point. And God, I was going with this somewhere. Yeah, just seeing the discourse online has been very interesting because even in my watch of my the first time that I watched this movie, hearing people laugh at certain parts was kind of unsettling. That in itself was a horror movie to me. And the second time I watched it was terrible because I like you sit with that moment when you realize Nikki's waking up not only to feel her body again, not only to be conscious again, but to have to see all of her friends dead, deal with the sexual trauma that she went through, deal with the horrific scene that she's seeing in that moment, and also knowing that she's going to get the one that she's going to get jailed or whatever. She's going to face the consequences of that scene. And the person in the front row was like laughing. He's like, oh, 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 oh. I was like, I'm really, really, really struggling to find out why you would find this fun. Like I just and obviously they could be laughing for other things. That doesn't inherently make them wrong, but it unsettled me. I was like,
Yeah.
why? There's no point in laughing here.
Yeah. I think there's times when people will laugh as a reaction in a horror movie to just being unsettled and feeling uncomfortable. And I can understand that, but
Yeah,
that's an odd reaction there.
yeah.
Also, originally in the ending, and we're talking about this obviously with full spoilers, but originally with the ending, um, Curry was thinking about basically emulating Romeo and Juliet and having her then take her own life, um,
Mm.
which I don't know. I think that would have been um, the ending is very bleak. I think that would have pushed it to a point that was like laughably bleak, where it's almost too much. But
Yeah,
what do you think about that? Do you think that would
I,
have?
I've heard this take, or at least I heard what he had to say about that ending, and I think either way could work. Um,
Mm,
and I think it's way more telling to have her wake up because I prefer this because I think you're right. I don't think it would be cartoonishly like bleak. I don't think so, but I think that it would just kind of you kind of move past the message, right? And her waking up at least elicits a response from me where I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, because now I am sitting with the weight of everything that she's dealt with. Obviously, I could not understand, right? But like, I am sitting with the realization that she's waking up and she has to hold on to everything that she just went through, everything, and she has to carry that burden for the rest of her life. That is a much, much, much darker ending, and then ending it all right there.
yeah,
And yeah, I think
yeah,
that ending would have been, I think it would have been fine, but I think that the ending of with ending with her just waking up feels way more impactful. It feels way heavier, in my opinion, to just wake up. And I think it also elicits these conversations that we have, where we could talk about this subject matter. And I wanted to ask you too. Um, do you think this movie is effectively communicating its message in the way that it talks about SA rape culture? Because I know there's been a lot of discourse online about this, and I even remember telling my friend after the second time watching this, I was like, I don't know if general audiences are going to fully understand what happened here and like the themes that are at play. And my friend told me, he's like, no way, man, people are not that far gone. I was like, I don't know, man. And sure enough, in my comment section, and I'm sure in yours and other comment sections, I've seen people be like, Barry did nothing wrong, and there's nothing wrong with what he did. And I wonder if this is at the fault of the movie effectively saying its themes. But I also was telling my friend I don't want a movie. Again, we talked about this with The Mandalorian. I don't want a movie to
hmm
hold my hand and explain it to me. You got The Matrix, American Psycho, these movies that explore these, not these themes in particular, but themes that feel like they are approving of it, but they're not. They're exploring it in a way that is, I think, very effective.
yeah. And I to answer your question, I think the movie is very, very carefully written. I think the movie makes pretty clear a lot of different things about Bear. Watching it a second time, I think that Bear understands essentially immediately that the spell worked. I think when Nikki comes back out, um, and is behaving the way that she is, and it shows him look at the box, and I think it's clicking for him that like, and it's almost like he's then playing dumb to pretend for himself or like pretend for the audience that, oh, I don't know what's happening. This is so crazy. I guess she just likes me. But like, I think he
Yeah,
clocks it immediately because it's bizarre. And pretty much the second thing that happens is he wakes up and she made a shrine out of his dead cat. Like, Bear is not. There's not really a world where he's pretending what's happening is okay. He just seems to be operating under the um basically he's saying that as long as she is acting in a way that's okay towards him, he's okay with whatever is going on, and he's not really going to push to necessarily understand what's going on. And when he does push, what you see is almost more concerning because even in the conversation on the phone with the guy who works for One Wish Willow, who's voiced by Curry Barker, I thought did a really good job. He basically says at first, I'm not really trying to undo this. I just wanted to like kind of make some tweaks to where like it's acceptable to him. Um, and you can tell he really never thinks of Nikki as a person. Um, and I think you don't even really get the sense that he like what does he love about Nikki? What is it about Nikki that he appreciates? It seems like Nikki does a lot for him, or like operates in this way where she's kind of this emotional
Mm.
support system for him, where like his grandmother dies, he leans on her, which he lays out. His cat dies, he leans on her. Um, what does he actually like about her besides the fact that she's just kind of there and she's always been there, and she gives him attention. Like it seems like she could be anyone. Um, and I think you see that. I think ironically, it seems like Bear actually has more of a connection with Sarah. That's the other friend,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
It seems like Bear has more of an actual connection with Sarah, and the most personal, kind of intimate moment that he has in terms of supporting anyone else in the film is when he's sitting with Sarah and they're getting ready to open her acceptance letter. Like that's a moment where like he seems actually interested in Sarah as a person, maybe, or at least I think in actuality he's just like kind of smitten by the fact that she's giving him attention at that time, so he's like just
I
kind of
was just
being a
about to say,
yeah,
I was gonna let you finish your point, but I find
yeah,
that scene still sinister. I feel like this movie is like it shows us that he's very selfish. I
yeah,
feel like there's never a moment like you brought up a great point. What does he like about Nikki? The
yeah,
fact that she's there, but like he's literally such a coward. He doesn't even admit to his own crush until she's like, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And she's at his door, like with like there's no like awareness with this guy, and clearly like he's just I guess just happy to be with this crush and like whatever that means, like accepting everything. Like who are you dating? Like who are you dating? You're not dating a person. And it's funny that he asked like, what do you like about me? He tells Nikki that, but like what is what does he like from Nikki?
yeah. And I think Bear does a lot of like mirroring type stuff where he does that a lot, and I think again there's a lot of really interesting thing with the writing, even, and maybe here's, you were talking about, will people understand this? I think there's some interesting stuff done with the writing, because the stuff you're seeing from Nikki in terms of how this entity is controlling her, like she is technically showcasing signs of like an emotional abuser. Like
Yeah.
whatever is controlling Nikki is also emotionally abusing Bear, which Bear brings onto himself and plays along with. But I think that's where people could get caught up in like the victimhood of Bear, or Bear being some
Mm.
like sympathetic, when in reality he has created the situation and he's the one every step of the way. And even after the conversation in the diner where he catches her lying about her father having cancer, she creates a scene like basically and emotionally abuses him in response, but like he doesn't push back at all. He literally goes, "All right, this is fine." And then there's the hard cut to them having sex, and like his flippant response to something that is clearly so wrong. Like he doesn't care about Nikki. He doesn't care about anything that's happening except, can we keep going as if this is normal?
Yep.
So I think maybe that's where people are getting tripped up. But like you got to understand cause and effect, and like it's kind of a chicken and egg sort of thing.
Yeah, I also want to touch upon. I know that there's a lot of important conversations about consent, rape, SA. I think there's, obviously the surface level issue about obsession, and that obviously a lot of people talk about, which because it feels almost self-explanatory, right? But I have seen time and time again people who have just got into relationships who are just codependent, where you cannot go to see your friends even if it's for one night. There's this codependency, and this is again, I don't want to put the blame on anybody here. This is just I'm talking in general with like codependency. Um, I think that also kind of touches upon that in very interesting ways too. Um, where you sort of also just lose a sense of identity when you enter into a relationship where it is obsessive and codependent, that you don't have a semblance of who you are as a person. And I just kind of wanted to point that out because I know that is more of a surface level type of thing for the movie, because it's kind of obvious it's talking about that, where the root of the movie is talking more about consent and SA and the nice guy trope, which is explored incredibly well in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if there's a message for like young men watching the movie, I think one of the number one things that it's saying is like know yourself, like have an identity. Do not like Bear is just seems to be barely existing. Like obviously there's some level of depression there, like he lost his grandmother, he's not taking care of his animal, like he had sleeping pills out to where or oxy out, whatever it was, to the point that
Yeah,
his animal could kill itself. Like this person is barely functioning, but like he
yeah,
doesn't have any like what does Bear even care about? What does he do with his life? What does he do with his time? What is he passionate about? Like I think the movie is saying on some level, like, and I think this is true for men and women, but men I think oftentimes will be far more harmful if they don't listen to this, but like be a person. Like don't build your identity around another person. Um and you know, be independent. Um
yeah,
because like Bear is the one that is deeply obsessed and like only seems to be building his schedule and putting his energy into Nikki when again he doesn't even actually care about Nikki as a person. So
yeah.
it's really unhealthy.
Yeah, there's definitely something up with Bear, and it sucks too because like obviously you feel for the loss of the cat, you feel for the loss of the grandma. Um, these are things that really do suck. But I think these are also moments where you sort of learn to heal and love yourself. These are very important moments, and obviously, like that doesn't have to look like it's just you fighting these battles alone. If you have friends and family to lean on. Like that's important too. Um, but these are pivotal moments to, like you say, create an identity for yourself and who are you in this moment. Learn about yourself, love yourself, help yourself, and build towards something that is not reliant on somebody else showing you that love that you already have within yourself. You know, it's a matter
Yeah.
of exploring and figuring it out. Funny you mentioned that. It's just something I talk about a lot. Um, and I guess it's a little bit personal, but it is what it is. Um, I think like 2 years ago, I probably had like one of the worst depressive episodes I've had. It was really rough, and like I was able to, I was in the rut, and I was like, okay, let me figure out new ways on how I can help myself, and I figured some stuff out. I was able to get myself out. I was like, all right, sick. I have the tools. Whenever I'm depressed or feel down, I got it now. Like it's gonna be fine. And the next year, I got into a depressive rut again, and I went back to those tools that helped me back again. I was like, it's some journaling, different stuff that helped me in that moment, and none of it worked. And I was like, oh shit. And I was able to figure out new ways because I was not the same person that I was a year
Hmm.
ago. And I got to tell myself, oh, like in many respects, I get to fall in love with myself every single time. And that's a beautiful thing to me, you know? And even when I fall, I'm able to look and find new ways on who I am in that moment that can help me to reestablish my baseline. I do hope for anybody listening, I hope that can be instrumental to help out somebody in some way, but also in the same respect, I think I agree a lot with what you're saying. I hope this movie rings as a reminder to young men or anybody who feels like they they're lost in this cycle, that to cling on to their identity, to find an identity, to find their to drive and to give that love to themselves before they even move on to try to destroy somebody's life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and what I found funny was, there's a conversation that Bear and Sarah have. I think in the store, maybe not in the scene where he's eating the cat sandwich, but I think there's another scene after that where basically Sarah says that, Nikki needs therapy and this and that, and like everything she's saying about Nikki could be reflected onto Bear at the beginning of the movie. Um, and Bear's kind of going along with it. And Bear does a lot of really scary stuff in this movie too. Like something that really stuck out to me yesterday was um whatever is controlling Nikki obviously comes up with a story about, her father having cancer and being sick to create empathy, um and to kind of like push that along. But, Bear obviously is aware of the fact that that's a lie in the restaurant. And then
Yeah.
in his final conversation in the car with Sarah, he goes, "Oh, well, her dad has cancer."
Yeah.
Um and like he's using the same lie that she was trying to use as like a form of emotional abuse to someone else to justify what's going on. And I feel like there's a lot of moments where I think Bear's like mask kind of drops, and I think that's one of them. Um, that was really scary. But obviously the scene also after the conversation in the dark with the actual Nikki, where he just goes, you know, what's so bad about, liking me or loving me, whatever he says, or
Yeah.
being with me, and she says, "You've never been with me, Bear." Like, and he
Yeah.
just walks away, and it's like, yeah, this
Dude.
is an evil motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, man. No, I think that obviously that cannot be a more obvious point in the movie. Like that is Cory
yeah,
Barker
it's
holding
the
the camera
spoon feeding.
like, guys, this is not a
Yeah,
good person. Like, because that one is like, that sent chills down my spine, because like I had never seen Bear act like that up until that moment. Well, actually, that's a lie. The phone call was a telltale sign. That was like, because he's like, "Can I do a halfway measure?" And we talked about this already, right? That's when I was like, "What the fuck? Like,
yeah,
things are not going well, my guy. Like, right now, if any time would be the time to pull the plug. Like, it's you're already too deep, but I guess now would be a good time." And then that scene where he's leaving, right? Just crazy. And we talked about the scene in the car with Sarah. Um, I truly do think that he only starts to show signs of like maybe he's into Sarah because Sarah is like basically throwing herself and be like, "I like you, Bear. Like I really do like you," you know.
yeah,
And I like, because even in that moment, he was just like, well, he's only thinking about himself. Even in that moment, he's like, well, things aren't working out with Nikki, as if things are normal there, right? Like, well, And I was
yeah,
telling a friend yesterday too, like, it's whether intentional or not, this happens so much where like relationships don't work out, and like one of the partners will end up start talking and flirting with somebody else, so that way when the relationship ends, you just jump over into the next one, done and done. And he was just like, okay, well, Sarah likes me, we can just do this, like, as if anything is normal about what the fuck is
yeah.
going
And
on.
then literally
Thinking,
gets like he gets her killed. Like
yeah.
that costs her life because he's so like leaving this situation at 2:30 in the morning, and you think that person's not going to follow you. Like,
Also,
I don't know.
yeah, also, I was talking about it with my friend too, just about you live with someone at this point. You're leaving at 2:30 in the morning to go hang. Like obviously it could not. It could have no malintentions, but it is at bare minimum. It is a little
No
like
pun intended.
eyebrow raising a little bit. Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Like what are you doing, dude? Like, she said, "I'll come over." I would have been like, "Okay, come over. Let's turn on the lights. Let's sit in the living room. Like, what's up?"
yeah. I also think it's worth conversation. Someone who should not be forgotten in this movie in terms of making things worse is Ian, the friend, because like Ian, first of all, is a terrible friend to Bear. Like Ian has this thing going on with Nikki, whatever it might be, is not honest with his friend about what that is. Like he sees his friend pining after somebody that he knows, like he's obviously been with. Um, so to be dishonest and then to be the person that Bear is leaning on to give him advice about how to handle this situation and kind of giving him really toxic advice, like you feel like he is definitely a terrible influence on Bear, who doesn't know who the fuck he is in and of it himself.
Mm.
Um, and I think, you see the selfishness of Ian at the end of the movie with the money wish. Like, um, and I feel like he's really no better than Bear. Like he does have some concern, but like the way he talks about Nikki the whole movie, it's like very like also he just doesn't see her really as a person. He just sees her as this like thing that exists for them
Well,
to like mess around
here
with.
I have a theory that Bear and or not Bear, but Ian and Nikki were arguing before all of this went down.
That's why
Um,
she wanted to leave the job.
yeah, I think she wanted to leave the job because, and what makes the situation with Bear so much more heartbreaking is because, like, do you see them when they take their shot? Nikki steals his hat, Ian's hat, and then runs
Yeah.
away with it. Like they're flirting. What I assume is like things were good. before like at some point that night. And we know that they've been on and off for a couple of years. um, and it seems to me on the drive home, and when she says, I want to go home, I want to go home, Ian, I want to go home, Ian, like, I think she was, for whatever happened inside that trivia night, I think something went wrong. um, to me, it feels like Nikki probably was like, let's do something serious, or let's like not hook up anymore. Because on the drive home, Nikki's like, Nikki tells Bear, she was like, I'm so glad I can talk to you about this stuff. And in retrospect, or at least in the moment when you're first watching it, you're like, oh, maybe she's into him. But looking back at that now, I think about that moment as Nikki looking at Bear being like, I actually have a guy friend who doesn't view me as just someone to hook up with, just someone who's interested in me, just someone who's attracted to me. I can just talk about things and just be a normal person with you, which explains her crash out at that door, because he says freaky Nikki. And as I'm saying this to you right now, I'm just realizing that I think Ian might have actually told her that before. um, because she gets upset and she turns around and she was like, "If you have feelings for me, now would be the time. Like, let's just get this over with." Like, and I think she's frustrated because I think as before that night, as that night was going, I'm sure they might have had an argument. And even on the drive home, I forgot to mention this. She says, "I want to find love." She says, "I want to find love." She almost like saying she wants something serious. She wants something tangible, something real. And I think what you're saying is also correct. I've kind of flip flopped on Ian a little bit, because I did think that the approach to just ask a friend who you've been friends with for a long time out on a date is to not do all the sappy stuff and overwhelm them and make them feel like they're pressured to give a direct answer. There should be, I think, Bear or Ian's response to just be like, "Hey, just tell her, like, let's get a drink." There's implication there. There's no pressure. Like, hey, yes, if they're into you, they'll be like, "Sure, let's grab a drink. Like, let's see where this goes." But there's no pressure. So I do think that in that beginning part, I could see. I was like, "Oh yeah," like Ian was looking out for Bear in that moment. But what followed after and his responses to looking out for Nikki was, I think, just, I don't know. I'm not too entirely too sure um, if he was looking out just because he cared about her, or he was just like, I don't know. His intentions are very weird to me. Very weird to me
Yeah,
about that.
I agree. I also think what's interesting is I saw an interview with all of them together, and Indy was asked, I guess, if Nikki had any type of feelings for Bear, like if there was any kind of crush, and she was pretty much like, yeah, maybe. But I think what's interesting is it doesn't matter, right? Like it
No,
it literally doesn't matter, and I think that's sort of lost in a lot of the discussion around that. I think focusing on the, oh well, did she feel maybe a little bit, like who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter.
yeah,
Like there's no tangible impact of that information because Bear handled every single step of the way so poorly.
she didn't
Um,
decide. She had no choice about how she
yeah,
felt after that wish. It's done. It's done. There's no conversation around that. And part of me maybe thinks that maybe possibly, but who, like you said, who gives a fuck? Like that.
yeah,
Like, again, we're straying from the movie and what it's talking about and what actually happened. And what actually happened was that Bear stole any sort of opportunity for her to decide that. That's the conversation is done there, And yeah, I see these conversations about, like, oh, did he like it? Like, again, let's circle back. So let's circle back to the stuff that this movie is saying, because it's very important, and I think it's very timely too, to talk about this stuff, because um, in a world that, like, I guess has accepted Me Too, but also rejected Me Too. Um, we're in a counterculture. It's a very interesting time that we're in, where, like, we just had the whole Justin Baldoni and what's her name?
Blake
I'm not,
Lively.
yeah, Blake Lively situation, and more so I always think about the Amber Heard situation, and just how much of a piece of shit. Johnny Depp is and the way that the media handled that. And so I think that we need to be having more conversations about rape culture, about SA, and about how we approach victims and how we view them, and why I think that ending to this movie is so heartbreaking and devastating to me, because how often I've seen people I've seen people in my life who are who have told me like, oh, like the allegations are false, like it's she's just a crazy bitch. They'll always it's always the same narrative, always the same lines. Like there's no the pattern repeats. And to know that at the end of this movie, they're going to pull up, they're going to see Bear, who everybody knows as the nice guy, and they're going to be like, she's crazy and she killed all of them because she's
Yeah.
just another crazy bitch, whatever people.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're talking about the ending. I feel like the way this movie ends kind of reminds me of the I mean, there were three or four different options, but the one potential ending for Get Out was it was just the actual police pulling up, and it's like you understand that he's going to be taken away and blamed for everything, and he's going to go to jail and not be um, believed, essentially. And I feel like that's kind of similar to the ending of this movie, where like she's going to either go to prison or be institutionalized. Um, I
Yeah.
saw someone saying, maybe if she's able to get away, she could find the $1 billion, be out before the cops get there. That's like a hopeful ending, but
I don't know if she even knows about that.
yeah, hopefully she'd wander over there. I don't know. But anyway,
Uh,
I just you can't really see her not being completely mentally fractured by this.
right.
And I don't know. I mean, what do you think was the ideal course of action for Bear at any given point? Like what do you think or what is the moment where you think he should have tried to do something else, or what do you think that something else should have been?
It's funny. I talked about this with some of my friends too, just about that moment when she starts acting up after the wish. I think that's, and I know that's so early on. You don't get a movie. You just don't get a movie,
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah. This is all fully purely hypothetical.
for
Yeah.
sure. I think if like the way that I was approached it is like if my friend, because he even says you're so drunk. If my friend hops into my car and is like, take me to your place, like I'm trash, and we're already at their place, I'm getting out and I'm opening the door with their keys and I'm locking the door and I'm like, call me tomorrow. And if they're like, I like you, or they admit to some type of feeling, it's still like like he actually said the right thing for a split moment. He said, let's pick this up tomorrow. See how you feel tomorrow. Yeah. Let it
Yeah.
let sleep it off. Let me know tomorrow where we're both conscious and we can have an adult conversation about this stuff. Um, because if that's the moment, and even so, right? Even so, if you were to take your friend back to your place and they're trash, that's the course of action. I am sleeping in the living room, first off. But even then, like this is already crazy to me.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping in the living room, and I'm not entering that room. If you need me, holler at me. I'm in the living room. I have everything you need. That's what it is. Um,
Yeah, and again, I
but
feel like it's Bear's almost like going through the motions of what he thinks he's supposed to do while knowing in the back of his mind like what he's actually going to do. Like it feels like he's like again almost acting.
yeah,
Um but I really think that he knows that it worked, and I think he knows that immediately.
yeah,
Um
yeah,
and I think that kind of makes the movie really work. Some other just moments I wanted to reference. I thought the Nikki had a few standout moments. One of them was the Hansel and Gretel story. Basically telling this like incestuous Hansel and Gretel story that kind of I feel like drives home the point of,
she doesn't
you
like.
know, yeah, and even if like Nikki and Barrett actually been related, like he would still feel this like ownership over her, and
Mm,
it's a the moment is I think darkly funny because she's doing this like big voice and accent, and obviously the context of the party, like it is a funny moment but also really unsettling. And then obviously, um, she harms herself after that. That's a moment in the movie where I was like, yeah, the cops are gonna be all over this place, and she's gonna be instant like she's gonna be Bear wouldn't just be like driving away to the hospital like that. The movie would have ended there.
Mm.
So in my head, I was a little bit like, nobody there
Also,
was like, "Hey, man, let's get the cops involved," or
what do you think happened at the hospital? Because I still don't really have a
they
concrete.
just told him to fuck off. Like,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I don't know
I guess
why.
it doesn't really even matter. It doesn't really even matter the context. It's one of those movie tricks where you just like you don't really have to explain. You just kind of just assume, and it doesn't really make or harm the movie. Like
I thought maybe she was acting super fucked up and loud, and they were just like, "We're not dealing with." Like, I think she was like
I thought
jumping
that.
around and
Yeah,
yeah. So maybe, but again, this is not a movie where I'm harping on realism, but
yeah.
um,
What
just a,
are there any issues that you have with this movie? I know I have a couple. It doesn't deter entirely from my viewing, but yeah, I want to know if there's any like small little details that you would have preferred to see changed.
I think it can feel. I think maybe it could have been trimmed down a tiny. I think it can feel a little tiny bit repetitive. Um, and some of the like stuff with her like screaming and yelling, I think that gets a little bit repetitive, but I think that is an important part of the story. I also will
Yeah.
say, I think an interesting. Did you watch The Woman in the Yard?
No, I didn't get around to that one. No.
Okay, so I won't super spoil anything, but that's a movie that also touches on it is really I would say a much more serious and even more serious movie than this in terms of tone. Like it's not really undercut with comedy, um, and
Well,
it's a movie really about mental health and trauma and suicide. And it has some pretty serious moments, especially one really serious moment around I guess considering suicide, and it really got trashed for it. Like it got sort of review bombed. I was seeing a lot of like moral outrage about it and people like, getting on, you know, a high horse and talking about how distasteful it was, this and that. And then I see this come out and I'm like, this is a dark comedy that at the end, has him figuring out if he should blow his head off or shoot himself in the chest, and then he like swallows pills and then tries to make himself throw up, and then his suicide is kind of played as a big, really dark joke at the very end. And I'm just like, are y'all not upset about this? And like I'm not saying like I didn't take issue with it really. I think like,
yeah,
you know, um
it's a heavy
s-
movie. It's a
yeah, and I
heavy.
don't know what it's like for someone who's been through a situation like that, that goes and watches something like this and sees that. I don't know what that's like, but I think it's odd that people crucified that movie for this for being a serious movie that a writer wrote about his own mental health struggles, and then this movie is a lot more flippant with it, and it just gets praised. I found that odd, but
I think
um,
it's weird what people decide to be upset over and what they decide to not be upset over. So that's why I've
yeah,
just and also just the morality police and the purity culture that has just risen with everything else in this country has just been an eye roll to me. I just roll my eyes. I'm like, all right, man. Like I just like I don't care to conversate with these people. These people are not serious people. There is a moment and there's a time and place for conversations that revolve around whether or not a piece of art is treating a serious matter with the gravity it deserves. And this goes into a point about this movie where I have seen some people, say that um, they didn't like the way that it handles some of the subject matter, and I think it's a fair thing to say. I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't think so. I know it can be heavy, and I know it can be over the top. I think this is why I really, really enjoy horror movies that are able to explore heavy topics. I'm gonna recommend you a movie that I do not advise pretty much anybody listening to check it out, but it's called Strange Circus by Sion Sono, and I'm watching that movie, and there's it's really fucked up. It's more fucked up than this, and I felt disgusted afterwards. And I was just thinking, like, holy shit, like, what is the what's the point of this? And I talked about it on the podcast with my friend as we were talking about horror movies, and he opens up about his sexual trauma and what he went through, and how he was able to relate with this movie and sort of feel like it was like a healing process for him with this movie. And I think that that's the beauty of art sometimes. Like, as long as you're doing it with the intent of treating these matters with respect, I think that art should be able to explore them in crazy ways like Obsession does, you know, crazy ways like Strange Circus does. And there's a beauty to horror that allows that to happen. You know?
Yeah, and I think there is a line between like exploitation and exploration.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's good to talk about that stuff. But we also live, people can make, as long as they're doing things safely and legally and everyone on the set is safe, people can make things that they want to make and put it out there. I just I look for consistency in conversation, and the
yeah,
conversation between woman in the yard in this movie is not consistent, and that was, a black woman in a lead
yeah,
with a black family. And I'm just like, we can't be doing this. Like, we can't freak the fuck out and act like that movie is. It's
right.
just it's odd to me. I
Yeah,
wanted to bring it up, but anyway, um, yeah, this movie I thought was very, very good. I gave it 4.5 stars both times. It didn't have that like real, like, it didn't emotionally fully blow me away to the point that I was like, yeah, it's a 5-star movie.
yeah.
Um, but again, this was made for nothing, and all four of the actors involved in this, and I think normally in a movie like this, there might be two, like Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete might give a good performance, and then Megan Lawless and Cooper Tomlinson, they might be lesser actors. They were both fabulous. Like, they were
I
both
thought
really good.
I was honestly impressed at how seamless Megan Lawless was in this movie.
Yeah.
I think she was a standout for me because in the little screen time she had, and even without doing like this over the top emotion, right? Um, I think she's so seamless in the story. She does a phenomenal job. Michael Johnston, because of the character he's playing, obviously will not get talked about as much, but I do think that he's holding his own. And I say this with respect. Indy Never is just such a talent, a talent that I was saying I put her up there with Tony Collette, which is an easy one. But I would go as far as to say I put her with Isabel Ajorn. I think that's her name, the girl from Possession. Um, the amount of acting she's doing again with her face, body language, chills down my spine. And I've watched this 3 times, and every single time she electrifies me. And obviously it's working in tandem with the score and the editing and the scares, and obviously like this is all working in tandem. But it is a performance for the ages. And I hate being like so bombastic about things, but I try not to do this as much. And she is just one of those persons. She's one of those actors that is just gives a performance that I think will be talked about for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like you said, it's everything. And like, even just the control over her voice, like,
Yeah.
is, you know, I think sometimes we forget what a gift voice acting is, and it's not quite treated with as much.
Shout out Jeremy Allen White, man.
Yeah, man. Holy shit. That was bad.
Yeah.
But like, essentially, with, like we talked about, with the darkness and the shadows and all that, there's sequences here where basically you're listening to her voice acting, and we specifically
Mm,
talked about the one in the bed. And she's doing a lot, and even the scenes where you are seeing, her mouth moving and stuff, she's in total control of every scene. The music you mentioned, this is a debut score from Rock Burwell, which I thought was incredible. Like, I thought the music was fabulous. I think it excuse me. I think it felt like he was really in tandem with Curry and understood what this movie was and how it should sound. I thought the sound design was great too. Not overdone, no over reliance on jump scares or auditory jump scares, which I despise.
Yeah.
I think that's a crutch for movies that don't have any atmosphere, and I think this thing is really full of atmosphere.
There is a moment in the sound design that I really, really, really like. When he grabs another wish willow and he's trying to crack it, and as he's like pulling
Yeah,
on
it's
it,
like
there's like a
yeah,
rumbling, and I was like,
yeah,
"Whoa, that's so sick, dude! That's so sick." And you make a good point there about not overdoing it with the sound design, the jumps and whatnot. This I'm a drummer, so a big thing for drummers is to just overdo the fills, like go crazy on the cymbals. The best drummers stay in the pocket, keep a nice rhythm, know when to fill in the sounds, and not to shit on Undertone too much here, but Undertone, when everybody was talking about the sound design, I think sound design is pretty good. Like it was nothing for me to run home about because it was like me when I was playing backyard shows. I was doing a fill every 4 bars, and it just was like at a certain point, you're like, yeah, I get it, man.
yeah,
You can do it. Whereas in this movie, the sound design is very precise. It comes when it needs, and it's the same thing with that score. The score blew me away. I want to own the score. I don't buy scores that often. I'll just stream them. But this score, I don't know, man. It's something about ambiance music in general. There's a movie that screened at South by Southwest called Brian. Really, really good. I'd recommend everybody add that to their watch list. Hilarious comedy. But there's a score in there too. Just ambiance music always will sucker me in and remind me the name of the person that did the score. Um,
Rock Burwell.
yeah, Rock Burwell absolutely knocked it out the park. I loved whenever the score would seep in. I was fully in. I loved it. I loved it, and I love it every time I hear it at the screen.
Yeah, and maybe I also just wanted to mention uh Curry has another movie coming next year that's already shot. It's in post-production called Anything But Ghosts with Aaron Paul.
Jesus
Cooper,
Christ!
hold on, wait 1 second.
Yeah,
Cooper Tomlinson plays Ian, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah. So he will also be in this movie with Aaron Paul. Also, Curry Barker will be in it. Bryce Dallas Howard and Violet McGraw. And the premise is two fake paranormal investigators must face actual ghosts while dealing with the deception of their own fraudulent business, which sounds awesome. And he made
Wow,
this for $5 million. It's
wow,
coming from Focus Features once again, and Blumhouse is involved once again as
wow,
well. So we'll
wow,
see what he does with 5 times the budget, and
wow.
um, yeah, and then he's doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre for A24. So
I am beyond excited for his Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know what he's gonna pull off. The one thing that I am worried about is just the center frame shooting, which is one of my gripes with this movie at times. I don't think it deters from the experience for me, but it's something that was pointed out to me, and I haven't been able to stop seeing it. A lot of modern movies are shot with with the concept of you're going to clip this for TikTok.
yep,
So a lot of stuff
yep.
is centered. And once somebody pointed that out to me, I was like, oh shit. And I just saw a clip from the He-Man movie, Masters of the Universe, and like his boot up, everything sent like the next frame there you have it's a wide frame, but everything is happening in the middle. I was like, oh, oh my god. And I hope he expands a little bit more. I know that he's going to continue to evolve. Another thing was the lighting, the harsh lighting was really really working for the scarier moments of this film, the intense moments. Sometimes I felt like the lighting was almost too dark at times for parts that weren't that scary. Couldn't really see much. But again, these are little things that I had problems with that completely fall to the wayside when you see Indy Navarrete going fucking stupid, when you hear the score swell up, or the sound, like there's just too much for me to like about this movie. that can get my cons in the way. Like it's just, and I know he's gonna get better. It's gonna be. I'm excited for his future. I'm excited for whatever he's got working on. Him directing Aaron. Was it Aaron? The guy from
Aaron
Breaking
Paul.
Bad, right? Aaron
Yeah.
Paul. It's good. I already know he's going to deliver such a hilarious performance and a good performance at that. Perfect pairing, perfect casting. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him, get another cool opportunity. Um, I feel like he was somewhat wasted post Breaking Bad. I feel like he was someone
Uh,
that became so synonymous with the character, that maybe it hurt him. But he's so good in that show. Um,
he's remarkable in that show. Remarkable.
it might be the best performance in the show. Like
Mm.
all around, I don't know. He's really good. And what that
I,
character goes through, and in terms of like maintaining this some humanity, is really interesting.
I don't. I'm not mad at that take. It's funny because I don't think I've heard enough people. I don't think I've ever heard that take ever. But I wouldn't be mad at that take at all because I'm thinking back to just like when he relapses and his journey with drugs and
Yeah.
his journey being a tool of Walter White, just all the ups and downs. And I mean, the thing is, like, he is giving such a fucking incredible performance. I would not be mad about that. But then, then I start thinking about,
Bryan
I,
Cranston. Yeah.
yeah, it is just
Yeah.
like they're both incredible. I'm not mad at either. It's that's such a fucking phenomenal show. But you're right. I need to see Aaron Paul just in way more movies because he very underutilized. And I don't know if that's by choice. I'm sure he's tried, but I think this would be massive for him. I know he's had a couple of movies in the last couple of years, but none of them that I ever was like, oh yeah, I want to see this. Like just
Did you watch Ash last year?
I was interested in it.
Dude,
I
it's bad. It's
don't.
bad.
Yeah,
It's real bad. Yeah.
I've heard, man. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
But do you have any closing thoughts on Obsession or anything else you want to touch on?
Obsession. Go watch it if you're listening to this pod. And if you haven't seen it, we pretty much spoiled the whole thing. So if you have seen it, go back rewatch it. My rewatches have been a lot of fun. I am always worried about rewatching a horror movie because I'm worried that the magic is gone. And this one, I've seen it 3 times in theaters, and it's such a thrill every time. Um, I will say that I hope that these movies and art continues to be made by people who care about this, who care about doing this, who care about making films to inspire the next generations and to continue to inspire us, the current generation to speak out and want to create stuff no matter where you're at and or no matter how you do it. And I think it's very inspiring to see Curry gain this success, Curry gain these opportunities. In the same vein, it's so exciting to see a Boots Riley get funded again for another movie and make that and do that. And I would love to see more studios take risks with people of color when they want to make some weird fucking movies. Like that's what I want. That's what I want more studios to do. So in the same vein that we're getting Kane Parsons and the Curry Barkers, I'm happy. Let's give some more money to some people of color and let them do some weird shit. That's my closing statement. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I would say go see Is God Is as well. Um, I enjoyed it. I have been meaning to review it on TikTok. I talked about it on Letterboxd, but solid movie, another directorial debut. Um, and again, I think if we want to see these younger filmmakers get more opportunities, you got to go support them when they're getting started. So,
100%.
um, yeah, and I just it is fun to see in the film community when something like Obsession comes, everyone kind of together and enjoying it, and breaking it down and having the discourse, and overall it being um, really positive. I think it's fun when those moments come around.
I love
But
I love when we're all in tandem, and we're all just kind of like, yay, this is our movie. Like it feels like everyone's like jumping up and down, like celebrating, dude. Like we're all in a huddle. Like there is no there's even people that I've seen hate on it are just like, yeah, it's fine. But I'll take that. Fuck it. I'll take that. Like, it is what it is. Oh shit.
I agree.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's what we have today on Obsession. If you haven't seen it, like we said, go see it. If you have seen it, go see it again. Let us know anything we missed or any of your thoughts in the comments, and circle back with us next week. I think we'll be talking about Star Wars. Unfortunately, that episode will be a lot more negative, but today was mostly positive. So thanks for listening. Take care, and remind everyone where they can find you one more time.
I'm at Film Bro Sway, Letterbox, Instagram, TikTok, Film Bro Sway. You know. Thank you for having me, Dan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening again, and we'll talk to you guys next week.